Are you looking to visit an international Disney park but have no idea where to start? Then this video is for you. 2016 is the year that I'm visiting every single Disney park in the world. I've already been to Disneyland, I've been to Walt Disney World, recently just got back from Tokyo, just booked my flight for Shanghai and Hong Kong, and already planning my Christmas trip to Paris. I've been to all of them except Shanghai, obviously, and Hong Kong, and you guys ask me all the time for any advice or tips on how to actually get started planning your international Disney trip. So today, it's gonna be here. This video is gonna encompass a lot. I'm gonna talk about ground transportation out of the country, how to find cheaper flights, a little bit about the parks, and it's gonna be a very long video, so I'm breaking this down into two different sections. The first is gonna be more general travel tips and information that applies to every single park. And for the second half, I'm gonna talk about each park individually with hotels and time you should spend there. And I'm gonna have jump links down in the description. So if you wanna skip ahead to just hear about Shanghai, or if you just wanna hear about Paris, then you can do that without having to sit through all these other parks that maybe you're not interested in. But how are you not interested in every single park? Also, I want to make a quick note that this video is not sponsored. They're just my personal experiences. It's not the end-all be-all. I'm just trying to share my experiences and knowledge with you guys. First and foremost, just like planning any vacation, you need to figure out your budget. Generally speaking, Disneyland Paris is the most expensive trip that you're going to be taking, followed closely by Japan, then Shanghai, and then Hong Kong. Park tickets are cheaper in the Disney parks outside of the US, but your budget's really gonna be primarily based on your flight and your accommodations. I always manage to fly pretty cheap, which is really the only reason I'm able to afford to go to all of the Disney parks. Like my round trip flight from LAX to Tokyo was only $434. If you want to fly for the lowest possible ticket price, there's a few things you can do. Number one, be flexible with your travel dates, and two, know the places to look. Before you start looking for any flights anywhere, you always want to look for flights in an incognito or private window. It's become known that travel sites have been using that data and cookies to kind of track your search patterns and your location to strategically inflate prices. Anytime you're on Expedia, Priceline, any of those websites, always make sure you're in an incognito or private window. The two websites I use the most and I always find the lowest prices on are Skyscanner and Airfare Watchdog. Skyscanner is great because it'll show you the entire month and you can see which actual day is the cheapest to fly, which is why being flexible is really important. Airfare Watchdog requires specific dates, but it also searches smaller travel sites and airlines that are typically missed on bigger sites like Expedia. Also, Airfare Watchdog's Twitter account and email notifications are super helpful when it comes to looking for specific deals. Like the only reason I saw that cheap Tokyo flight was because they had tweeted, "Price alert, LAX to Tokyo, $434. Booking websites are great to compare prices of different airlines, but when you find the one you want, and even like the cheapest one, you always want to cross-check with that specific airline, again in an incognito window. In my experience, about 70% of the time, the flight's going to be cheaper if you book it directly through the airline. Generally speaking, if the flight ticket is cheaper, then it means it's an off-season for that specific location. And there's pros and cons to both. Like, it might be cheaper because the weather that time of the year is not great, but if the weather's not that great, then the park's gonna be less busy, so you kind of have to weigh your options. Also, the time of year you go is drastically going to change your park experience because Disney likes to celebrate every single season and holiday differently. Tokyo and Paris have amazing like springtime stuff going on, they have amazing Halloween stuff going on, and Christmas completely transforms any park. So consider what time of year you're going and then see if anything is specific to that time that you want to experience or maybe you don't want to experience. Before I go into the park details, there's a few more things that you guys should know that kind of generally sum up all the international parks. There's no special ticket or pass or anything that's going to grant you access to all of the parks. I have the Premier Pass that gets me into Disneyland and Disney World, and I get asked all the time if that's valid for overseas parks. It's not. All parks have their own English websites to help you plan your trip better. You can find out when attractions are closed, the park hours, when the show schedules are going to be, when fireworks are, and you're going to want to know all of that beforehand because it's really going to impact your trip. For example, say you're going in off-peak season, you want to know that fireworks are only happening on weekends and not weekdays, or you want to be mentally prepared if the ride you want to experience the most happens to be going under a refurb. You should also look at the websites for dining information because there's nothing worse than traveling across the world, finding out about a really cool dining experience, and then not being able to do it because you didn't make a reservation because you didn't know you needed one. Also, I cannot stress enough, do not fear the language barrier. Park announcements, menus, maps, safety information, all that is going to be available in English. So fear not. Even most cast members speak English, or at least enough to help you out with any sort of questions that you have. Also remember that English is the universal language for travel. So when you're getting from the airport to the resort or to your hotel, all of those signs and all that information is also going to be in English. So you're not going to have to try to figure out like Chinese characters or Japanese characters. You're going to be able to see it. You're going to be able to read it on the map in the Phoenician alphabet. You're gonna be fine. If you have a US passport and you're staying in the country for less than 90 days, you also don't need a visa to travel to any of these places. The only exception is Shanghai, but you still have 6 days to visit without needing a visa, and I'll talk about that more in the Shanghai section. Face characters speak English. They speak English in the movie, so they're gonna speak English in the park. They'll also probably know some phrases in the language of wherever they're located. Like Prince Philip in Tokyo was asking girls in dresses to twirl or spin in Japanese, and it was adorable. And when I was in Paris, Mad Hatter spoke fluent French, which I'm not surprised, and that was like really cool. But you're gonna be able to interact with them, and it's gonna be great. They speak English, they love seeing your faces. All of the Disney parks have their own Disney resorts, so if you are really scared about traveling abroad and you want to stay like in a very safe Disney bubble, then you totally can do that. The Disney hotels are the cream of the crop, but it also means they're more expensive, but they have their own benefits like getting into the park early or within walking distance from the park. And some have Disney partner hotels which have their own benefits. International Disney parks don't have Wi-Fi like anywhere. So if you want internet throughout your trip and be able to iMessage or Instagram or whatever, you want to look at the airport that you're landing in and check out some possible rentals for pocket Wi-Fi. So it's fairly easy to have internet there. It was pretty affordable, and it's easy to pick it up at the airport, and then you can just drop it off at the airport and you're good to go. Also, just to know, if you're not very familiar with it, then you probably want to rush up on your military time, because fast passes, show times, and everything past 12 o'clock turn into 1,300 hours and 1,500 hours and 2,000 hours, and you don't want to completely throw yourself off, so just kind of familiarize with it and you'll feel a lot more comfortable your first day at the park. One of my favorite things about the international parks is they are all credit card friendly. It's very stressful to determine how much cash you need when you go abroad, because you don't know what souvenirs you want, you don't know how much exactly you're gonna spend on food, so you wanna get enough where you feel like you're comfortable, but just know that if you run out of money, or if you wanna save it for other parts of your vacation, know that the Disney parks will happily take your credit card, which makes shopping a lot easier. Just make sure that you've contacted your bank or your credit card company that you're gonna be traveling abroad, because you don't wanna use it and it get frozen, and then you don't have enough money, and then you're totally screwed. But if you let them know you're traveling abroad, then they'll also be able to let you know of any foreign transaction fees that you can be prepared for. With that out of the way, we're going to start talking about the individual Disney parks. Don't forget that there's a link in the description below that you can jump to each part if you want to hear just about one specific park. But if you want to hear about all of them and maybe make up your mind on which one to visit first, then just stay tuned. Disneyland Paris has 2 parks within the resort, Disneyland Paris and Walt Disney Studios. They're located very close to each other and walkable, very similar to Disneyland and California Adventure and Anaheim. This makes it an easy resort to park hop, which you should consider when planning the amount of time you actually want to spend there. The Disneyland side is much bigger than the studio side, but the studio side has a lot of shows that take up about the same amount of time to end up doing. The crowds are generally more manageable here than the other parks. For your first visit, I would recommend about 4 days to spend throughout the resort. I would split it like 2.5 for the Disneyland side and then 1.5 for the studio side. You will definitely feel rushed if you only have 1 day for Disneyland. And Studios has kind of weird hours. It usually opens a little bit later and closes a little bit early. So even though it's small, you may not actually be able to do everything if you only have 1 day. This should give you enough time to see all the attractions and shows, and also be able to repeat some stuff that you're probably going to want to do, like the Ratatouille ride in Studios and Phantom Manor that's really cool in Disneyland. You'll probably also have time to meet some characters, because you can look out for some rare ones like the Cheshire Cat. If you fly into Charles de Gaulle, you can get to Disneyland Paris in 2 ways. The first is a direct bus that takes you straight to the park from the airport. It's called the Magic Shuttle, and it's listed by Disney, so you know it's going to be trustworthy. It's the easiest way to get to the resort and costs about €16, but the hours are limited, so depending on when you arrive or need to get back to the airport is going to determine if you can use this mode of transportation. The second is public transportation, which is pretty simple, but it does require a train transfer. You'll want to take the blue line located at the airport towards St. Remy, which is easy to remember because Remy. You'll get off at the Châtelet station and transfer to the A line of the RER Paris train. That train actually dead ends at the Disneyland Resort, so as long as you get on the A line, it's the red one, and are traveling in the direction towards Marne-les-Vallées, Chessy, then you can't even really get lost. And because the park is pretty far away from the airport, I really wouldn't recommend getting a taxi unless you wanted to, but it would cost you a fortune. Paris has 7 Disney hotels and 8 Disney partner hotels, so there's plenty to choose from. They're all listed on the official Disney website, so you know that they're trustworthy, you know they're gonna have amazing accommodations. But even the Disney partner hotels are kind of expensive because you still are in Paris, you're still in Europe, and that's just how it is. But in my opinion, the partner hotels are just as amazing as the Disney ones. They come with their own slew of benefits. I've stayed at the Radisson Blu. All the partner hotels offer a free shuttle from the hotel to the actual park, which is also a train station. So it's really convenient if you book any of those. Basically, you would get off the train at the Disney Paris stop, and then you would take your complimentary hotel shuttle back to the hotel to check in, drop off your bags, and then get back on that shuttle to come back, which is only gonna take 10 minutes, and be able to like run into the park straight away. Moving on to Tokyo. Tokyo Disneyland Resort. It's so good. It's 2 parks, Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea, which more people need to be excited about because it's amazing. The resort in general is more spread out. You can't really walk between the resorts, but they have that super Disney themed monorail that everybody loves that connects the two. The monorail isn't free like in Disney World, but it's still pretty cheap. A one-way ticket works out to be about $2 and a day pass is like $6. The Disneyland side of the park is the more traditional Disney park with the castle and all the familiar attractions, as well as the park's flagship attractions like Honey Hunt and Monsters Inc. that people lose their minds over. They also have a ton of reservation-only dining options and shows and a bunch of parades that you want to make additional time for. Disney Sea, though, is definitely the most unique park in the world. With so many exclusive rides and attractions, it requires more time to experience all of that. Crowds here can be pretty intense, especially on weekends and nights, because the park offers what's called a Starlight ticket that's valid just from 6 p.m. to close. I'd say look into 5 or 6 days to spend in Tokyo Disneyland Resort, not just because there's so much to do, but the uniqueness of Disney Sea. You're going to want to explore everything. Also, the shows use a lottery system for seating, so you never know if you'll be able to catch all the shows you want to on any given day, and you may have to spend a lot of time in a standby line, or make sure you spend a lot of time waiting for the first showing that doesn't actually require a lottery. They also have so many characters that are really rare for us in the US, like the princes are out with their princesses, and they have like Esmeralda pretty regularly. So know if that's something that you want to do, allow time for that as well. I've traveled to Tokyo Disney from Haneda Airport and Narita Airport both. It takes about an hour, but it's very affordable and very easy to do by bus. And all of the how-to information is really, really easy to follow on Tokyo Disneyland's website. From the homepage, you want to click the Access tab. Recently, our bus from Haneda was only $8 and super easy to find the bus stations at both the airports if you just follow signs that say bus. You also don't have to book them in advance, which is nice because you never know how long it may take you to get through immigration. If you're staying somewhere else in Tokyo, there's also a pretty big train station that drops you off at Ikspiari. It's their version of Downtown Disney or Disney Springs that's very walkable to the park. The access page on their website is also really helpful with this location too. And it's always really important to look up the timetables for the direct buses and be prepared in the event that you may need to take a train. For example, to get back to the airport at the end of our trip, we needed to leave around 8 p.m. and the buses had already stopped for the day, so we had to take the train. It's just something to be prepared for and not get freaked out if it happens, because you're not going to get stuck, I promise. And just like Paris, the resort is really far away from the airport, so I don't really recommend getting a cab or a taxi. But worst case scenario, and if you're really rich, you always could get one. Tokyo accommodations are the easiest to book in my opinion because there's so many things to choose from. There's literally 21 hotels listed on their website that are either official Tokyo Disney hotels or Disney partner hotels, so there's no shortage of a place to stay. The whole resort is kind of like a big loop and connected by the monorail, so if you want something very easy, then check out the hotels within that perimeter. And depending on where your hotel is located within that loop, you may not even always have to take the monorail. For example, at Sunroute Plaza, we got a free shuttle to the Disneyland entrance, but to get to Disney Sea, we had to then take the monorail from there. But when we stayed at the Hilton Hotel, the shuttle took us to the monorail station between the parks, and we had to take a monorail to both Disneyland and Disney Sea. Also, the hotel prices vary, but your accommodations with any of the hotels that's Disney approved are going to be amazing. What's also interesting and culturally very different is how the Japanese travel than Americans. Like when Matt and I went, we booked a room for 2 people, and instead of getting one larger bed that would sleep 2 people, we got 2 individual twin beds. And on my last trip with Patrick and Abe, we were able to find rooms that had 3 individual twin beds. So just be sure to keep an eye out for that when you're looking into your accommodations. It's also worth mentioning that breakfast is hardly ever included in Japanese hotels without an extra fee, and usually a pretty hefty one, but I say just skip it altogether and eat all the amazing pastries in the parks for breakfast anyway. Moving on to Hong Kong. Hong Kong Disneyland is one of the smallest Disney resorts, even smaller than California Adventure, and resembles the original Disneyland the most. It's a singular park and all the attractions are very similar to all the Disneylands throughout the world. The only super distinctive attraction is Mystic Manor, which is a totally different take on the Haunted Mansion compared to everywhere else. If you're already familiar with the attractions and kind of vibe of Disneyland, I think 2 days should be ample time to explore and do everything in the park. Especially if you go on a weekday and when the park first opens, because Hong Kong Disneyland gets busier at night. Character meet and greets are also very popular and get really long lines, but their characters are also really similar to those in the US parks, so you may not find the need to dedicate as much time waiting in line for those meet and greets. One of the nicest things about Hong Kong Disneyland is how close it actually is to Hong Kong International Airport, so you can get there with any way you really feel the most comfortable with. There are buses that can take you there directly at the coach station in Terminal 2. You can also take the MTR train from the airport to the Xing Ying station. I don't know if I said that right. Anyway, there you transfer to the Sunny Bay station and hop on the Disney Resort line. A day pass for the MTR is only about $8, but even a taxi will only cost you about $16 to get there from the airport, which is going to be the most direct way. Hong Kong has 2 official Disney resorts that are going to be your best bet when visiting this park. They have the Hong Kong Disneyland Hotel and Disney's Hollywood Hotel. They don't have any partner hotels, so getting to the park if you stay anywhere else is going to take a little bit longer and a few extra steps. The park is located near an area called Discovery Bay that actually has quite a bit of hotel options that are a little bit more affordable than the Disney resorts. If you choose to stay in that area, be sure to look for a hotel that has a free shuttle to the Sunny Bay station, because you're going to get to the Sunny Bay station to get on the Disney Resort line that's going to take you straight into Hong Kong Disneyland. It's Shanghai Disneyland time! The Shanghai section is going to be a little bit short because obviously the park isn't even open yet, but it's in soft openings, which is enough for us to go on, and I'm currently booking this trip right now, so I can share with you the headaches that I've been experiencing while trying to manage this and what I've figured out so far. There's only one park at this location, but it's the biggest Disney park there is and has a lot of attractions that are specific to that park that make it really, really special. The ride technology, the differences between the lands, it's by far going to be the most unique Disneyland park that we can expect. And by that, I mean the park that has the castle in it. As far as how much time you should spend in Shanghai, it's kind of hard to gauge at this moment, but we're going for opening day and we've planned to do 4 days for that one park because it's going to be very busy and we're hoping that within that we can experience everything at least one time. We're also hoping that gives us enough time to kind of take a quick walk through Disneytown, which is a version of Downtown Disney or Disney Springs. The Shanghai Pudong Airport is the closest airport to the park and only like 15 miles away, which makes getting a taxi the most direct and easiest, most straightforward way to get there, and it says it's only going to be like 20 or 25 bucks. For public transportation, the good news is that Shanghai Metro extended one of their lines to dead end at the Disney park. The bad news is it's not even kind of convenient from the airport. The park was built in what was a less populated area, so the public transportation requires you to go pretty far out of the way. The Metro line that was extended was line 11, it's the maroon line, and it includes 4 new stops, the last being Disney. But the expansion is literally so new that it doesn't show up on any maps yet, at all. But if you're somewhere else in Shanghai and you look at the Metro map, if you find line 11 and you're somewhere near that, just know that you can take that and it will dead end at the park, even if the map doesn't tell you that it will now, because it's already happening. Everything's just outdated. The 2 official hotels at Shanghai are the Shanghai Disneyland Hotel and the Toy Story Hotel, which both were booked up super fast and I can't stay there and I'm really kind of bummed about it. Not only because I wanted to stay at those hotels, but because it's very, very difficult to find any other hotels in the area. There's not a lot of hotels in the vicinity and the park doesn't actually show up on a map yet. So it's been very, very stressful trying to figure out a hotel, but we managed to find one that seems like it's a pretty good option. It's the Holiday Inn Shanghai Pudong Kangkwao. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But we found in their listing that they're offering a free shuttle to the closest station on the line 11, and that's going to take us directly to the park. It's about 3 stations away, so it should only be about a 10-minute ride into the park every day, but we'll see about that. My recommendation for booking hotels here if you can't get into one of the Disney hotels is to look for anything along line 11 of that Shanghai Metro. Shanghai's the only place with a Disney park that has different rules when it comes to whether or not you actually need a visa to visit. Previously you needed a visa to visit Shanghai, or it was a temporary amount of time you actually can be there, but January of 2016, that changed. Basically, you do not need a visa for Shanghai if you're staying for 144 hours or less, which is 6 days, and are not leaving Shanghai. When you reach immigration at the airport, there's supposed to be a dedicated entry point for people who are entering under these circumstances, and you have to show proof that you're leaving Shanghai within 144 hours to a different country. There's a link that I've included down below if you want more information on this and read more about the specifics. It's important to remember this when booking your trip because if you want to stay for more than 6 days, then you need to give yourself enough time to get a visa, and just know it's an extra $140 that you otherwise can't spend on awesome merch. That was a lot of information. I hope that it was helpful. I hope it encourages you guys to start thinking about traveling internationally for Disney parks, because there's something really special about seeing that Disney magic in other parks and seeing the differences and then seeing what's the same, because they all have the same feeling, but then they're all very different. If you guys have any more questions about anything, maybe something I didn't touch on or something else you want to know, just leave in the comments below. Maybe I'll see you next time I visit one of the international parks. Until then, bye!